LeBron James all the way in.
And here comes Simmons the other way, 3-on-2. Simmons eludes the defender and lays it in with that. Certainly the length altered that shot. Not a big window. Steps punching.
Boy, if you thought the Isaiah Thomas trade was something big, wait till you see these next two trades. What's up, guys? It's your boy Bernie here. Like I said in the IT video, Pete's not here right now. Of course, this is a big trade deadline, and we'll discuss it heavily next week's charge episodes. But for now, we have two trades to discuss. There are two more big ones for the Cavs. The Cavs have completely changed their roster in a matter of a day. It's crazy to think how many trades you can make and completely alter your roster. So the first one we'll talk about is Dwayne Wade is going back to the Heat. Obviously, he signed a deal with the Bulls in 2016, and it didn't work out there as well. It also is not working out in Cleveland, so he had interest, according to Brian Windhorst, which is a reliable source, said that Dwayne Wade basically wanted to go back to Miami. He had interest in going back to the Heat. He's had a lot of history with that team, and I think it's the right move for him. If we just think about looking back at his 3 years since he was a Bull and a Cav, I think he's really missed the Miami vibe, the Miami situation, because that was his town. Miami was his place. Miami was where he once was king. And he's going to return home. He's obviously going to get some standing ovations, and I think people are going to enjoy him going back to the Heat. I think he will bring some energy off the bench, and he'll be very rejuvenated to go back to the place he once called home for life. A homer for life. He is Miami through and through. What I like about this trade for D-Wade himself, I'm not sure about the Cavs because it was for a second-round pick, heavily protected, which eventually goes to the Sacramento Kings. Maybe that's the reason why the next deal had to happen, and that is, of course, the three-way deal, which landed the Cavaliers, George Hill, and Rodney Hood. Exceptional shooters, and you brought in a defensive guy, which is great. What this does also is that the Cavaliers sent out Derrick Rose and Jay Crowder to the Jazz, so the Derrick Rose experiment has failed, and they got a pretty good piece, I would say, out of Rodney Hood and George Hill out of that trade. They get rid of Jay Crowder, who was not playing his best basketball and looking like a former shell of himself, so this does do a lot of good things for the Cavs, and of course, Joe Johnson will be going to the Kings along with Iman Shumpert. And Sacramento will also be receiving $3 million in cash and that second-round pick, which we talked about in the Dwayne Wade deal. So what does this do for the Cavs, really? So the Cavs right now are in a situation where they've completely revamped their roster. It's a fresh restart. It's like starting a new piece of, an essay or a paper that you're writing in college and just said, you know what? I don't like anything that I just wrote here. Let's just open up a new Word document in Microsoft and let's just restart. And that's what the Cavaliers did here. Obviously, Altman and Dan Gilbert, more likely the GM in this situation, just thought, you know what? Even if LeBron leaves, we're going to have some young pieces to build around a potential superstar, and that's the reason why we saw that Dan Gilbert was at the Trae Young, Colin Sexton game earlier in the months when those two faced each other in the SEC Big 12 battle. So, just going back to what it does for the Cavs now, I think what it does is that obviously, you have a really good shooter, Rodney Hood, who's young and is very well coached in the Quinn Snyder regime there in Utah. So I think you're going to get a really good player that's going to be a really good shooter. And you also bring in George Hill, although he does bring in a lot of cap room. I think what he does for you is that he really revolutionized your defense. You finally brought in someone that plays defense. Of course, in the first video I talked about with Isaiah Thomas, I said it was a bad trade, and I still think it is a bad trade. But I think this trade also softens the blow of that a little bit because you brought in, finally, a defensive piece that you were missing in your team and component to try and challenge for a championship. I'm curious to see if this is too late of a moves, because I think if they wanted to make those kind of moves, you should have made them earlier, but obviously you couldn't because you traded for Isaiah Thomas in that Kyrie Irving deal. So obviously what that means is that Isaiah Thomas is untradeable until December, but you had all that time to kind of rebuild and revitalize your team. Obviously, you thought Isaiah Thomas could be a working piece. Obviously, Dan Gilbert and Isaiah Thomas had a working relationship, but as soon as people saw that he wasn't what he was after that hip injury, people just stood away from it, and maybe that's the reason why, thinking back on it now, maybe that's the reason why he's not worth as much as he once was. Obviously, I don't think he's going to get the max deal, which is unfortunate because I do think that when he was a Celtic, he did deserve good money, but it's looking like he might not even get good money anymore. He might get, role player money, which I don't know if that's what he wants. I don't know if that's what he truly desires, but it's just kind of unfortunate to see there. But just going back to these trades, I think the three-way trade was a perfect move for the Cavs. They got a really good player, Ronnie Hood, who I watched in Utah, someone I enjoyed, someone I thought that could really develop well. And I think this does do wonders for him because now he's going to go to a LeBron James team that will focus on him shooting the ball a lot more. Obviously, in Utah, it's more of a Donovan Mitchell thing, so he was obviously not going to get the kind of treatment or really the minutes and touches that Ronnie Hood thinks he deserves, and I think doing this will help him tremendously. I'm kind of glad that this also does help Utah in a way because, I mean, obviously you get Jay Crowder and Derrick Rose, who probably aren't really going to do anything much. I mean, maybe Quinn Snyder can get something out of Jay Crowder since he is a systems guy, but this does do wonders for Donovan Mitchell. He'll get more touches, he'll get more shots, which I think he had to share with Ronnie Hood, who are almost the same player, but I'd say Donovan Mitchell's a little bit better. But Ronnie Hood, great trade for the Cavaliers. I think they got a really good player in this. And you know, I think this is kind of like an underlying tone is that Dan Gilbert is getting rid of LeBron James's friends on the rosters. Obviously, you got rid of Channing Frye. You got rid of Dwayne Wade. You know, Tyronn Lue might be next. Kyle Korver might be next. But I think what this does tremendously for the Cavaliers is that it kind of, I don't know if this is like Dan Gilbert or the GM, I can't remember his name, Altman. I don't know if this is like the motivation. Maybe they're like, okay, let's see how LeBron does without his friends. Maybe he's going to be more motivated, more focused to get along with these guys instead of having their own cliques and their own different agendas, which we saw was a really big issue in the Cavaliers locker room. So I think this does wonders for every team. We'll see what goes on here. I'm curious to know what you guys think of the trades. Do you think that the Cavs made some good moves? Did they make some dumb moves? I didn't say in the first video, but what do you guys think of the Isaiah Thomas trade? And also, what do you think about this trade with the three-way trade with the Jazz, Kings, and Cavaliers, and also the Dwayne Wade trade? The Miami Heat should welcome Dwayne Wade in open arms, or do you think they should hold a grudge against him? Let me know and let us know in the comment section down below. Obviously, this has been your boy Bernie. Pete's not here. Of course, we're going to be discussing it. It's impossible to avoid this, but we will discuss it. Twitter will be in the bio or at least above my head like it was in the last video. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the trade deadline rumors. Of course, I will put out more videos as soon as more trades come in. But anyway, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.